Welcome to Advanced Solutions How-To session. Today's session will cover how to edit system configuration and settings under System Settings. To begin, we must sign into the event management system, and for today's session you will need to know your administrative password. So here in the password box I am going to type in my administrative password and either hit the Enter key on my keyboard or select the login with my mouse. Once the program opens, it will open up to the Event System Maintenance homepage. And from the homepage, we will come over to Settings, System Settings, and select System Configuration and Settings. Once we are in System Configuration and Settings, we will come over here to the left, where you will find a menu of items that we can make modifications to. The one that we're going to select for today is System Settings. Now, under System Settings, there are 4 different topics that we can make modifications for System Settings. The first one is Registration Settings. The next one is EventEntry Settings. And then we have Attendance Settings and Calendar Settings. For today's topic, we are going to talk about our EventEntry Settings. Under EventEntry Settings, we have the option to set certain defaults for when we're setting up our events. The first one that you see here is the default time. And if I hover over the words default time, it will display a help guide to show what that means. Set a default time for a new event entry. What this could be used for is if most of your events start at 5 p.m., we could set this at the default. And then if it was anything different other than 5 p.m., it could be changed when creating the event. But at least we would have the standard or the default that would generally be used. Moving down, we also have the default setup time. Typically, it's 15 or 30 minutes. So if I put in 30 minutes, that would be the default time for setup. However, you can always make those modifications when setting up a new event. The same for default takedown time. We have a 15 or 30 minute typical increment. However, you can make those modifications when setting up the event. Maximum reoccurring occurrences. So what is going to be your max for reoccurring occurrences? Are you going to allow an event to go on for 24 months or 24 events, maybe 36 events? You can make that modification. Our standard is 12, but you can change that here. Require event type selection. This would just make the event type selection a required field. It would put an asterisk outside of the event type selection to make it a required field, and you would not be able to save your event unless this information was populated. You could also require the location selection. You have the option to enable the card number stipulation. By turning this on, it will allow the card number entry for your card numbers to be entered per event registration. The next field that we have here is set no waiting list default check to, and then we could choose yes or no. Do you always want to have a waiting list, or is the standard always to have a waiting list? If that's the case, we would select yes. Enable auditing. Now, I strongly advise having this turned on. What this will do is it will require either a name or initials placed in an open text box of anyone who has made modifications to an event, so that you know when the last modification was made and who it was made by. Enable address stipulation. The default for this field is currently disabled, but we could turn it on per event or always on per event. And then we have some other stipulations that we could turn on, and these are custom stipulations. If your library has certain stipulations that you need turned on for each one of your events, you can do so by selecting the Edit over here to the right, and you would populate this information with maybe your field question, your field note, and then required input yes or no, and then we could choose what the text information is going to relay. Is it an open text field? Is it a yes, no, or is it going to be a list? The last section is Enable Published Features. Yes or no. If we select yes, it opens up the next field, Publishing Password Level. This is going to be where you would select the level that would enable the published features. Next, we have the Auto Archive option. I strongly suggest turning this on, putting your events older than maybe, 90 days. That sounds pretty good for my events. What this will do will auto archive anything that's 90 days or older. The next field that you have here is Always Show Registration Settings. We can do yes or no. Do you always want to see the registration settings? Our default is currently no. Outside of the standard hours checking. This is a great tool to make sure you haven't made any error. What this will do is it will make sure that you stay within your 7 to maybe your 5 at work hours for current events. This will make sure that someone who is setting up a new event isn't accidentally selecting 1 a.m. when it should have been 1 p.m. because what it does is it goes by military hours. Once you're done making modifications to this section, you will scroll to the bottom of your screen and select the Save button. And once you're done within System Settings, you will hit the back button over to the left side of your screen to be brought back to the home page of the Event System Maintenance screen.